Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on new kitchen backsplash. Since we've put in new countertops, we've been needing to replace the backsplash. It's this old brick tile type material and we're going to be ripping that out. It's not really the style we're going for, a bit dated, and so we're going to tear all of that out and then we'll be replacing it with beadboard and painting it to match the cabinets. So while you're tearing out tile like this, ideally, if you're able, you want to keep the sheetrock in good condition so you can just reuse it. But in this case, they really glued this tile down. It ripped off all the paper off the sheetrock and busted some of the sheetrock as well where it was weaker, like around the outlets and things. So I'm actually going to be replacing this. So I'm going to take my multi-tool real quick and just cut around the cabinets so I can get this out in a very clean piece so that we have a nice straight edge to put in the new backing. Now this ended up being a good thing for us in two ways. First, the insulation in this house, you'll see in just a minute, they used blown-in insulation and that was done in the 60s. After a while, that blown-in insulation has just settled down and compressed at the bottom of the house, and everything up from 2 feet off of the floor has no insulation. And although I can't insulate the entire wall right here, I was able to push some insulation down below the cabinets and up above as far as I could reach and re-insulate this section. And so I'm going to do that real quick. Now the second reason why this ended up being a good thing was because the backing we need needs to be a lot more rugged than just straight sheetrock. That's because we're doing beadboard and we're using individual boards for this. We're wanting to run it vertically instead of horizontally, so we're not going to have the boards lining up with each of the studs, and that's going to be a problem if this was just sheetrock. So instead of sheetrock, we're going to be putting plywood up on this wall. That will give us a little bit to nail to mount the boards, but we're also going to be putting some construction adhesive behind those boards so that once that glue dries, it's not coming off. Now, if you don't want to put in plywood for some reason, there is also an option of just putting blocking along the wall. Once you have the studs exposed, you can put 2x4s down the top and bottom of the wall where you're putting the beadboard, and then you can nail to that instead of using plywood. But plywood ends up being so much easier, so that's the route we're going to go. This second wall, just going to repeat the same process, rip out all the sheetrock after the tile's gone, insulate, and then put up some plywood to nail to. This section has a window, so it's a much smaller area that we're going to have to cover, but still need to do this as well. Now, quick safety tip, if you're moving any of these boxes, make sure the power is off first. You can accidentally touch a wire and get shocked from it, and it can be really dangerous. And for these outlets, they were actually installed after the wall was in place, and so these mount to the sheetrock itself, so I could easily unscrew them and mount it to the plywood. Now that the plywood's in, I'm going to go around and seal up any of the cracks. This is mainly just for the draft and efficiency of the house. You don't want any open cracks. It will let in a lot of cold or hot air depending on the weather outside. So after I've caulked that, everything's filled in and sealed up, then I'm going to start on the beadboard installation. And if everything is level in your kitchen, you can cut a whole bunch of these at the right height to save some time and then go install all of them at once. Now for the starting board, I ripped this down right along the groove so it looks like a solid board right there and you don't have a tongue or a groove hanging off the side. Then I'll use some liquid nail to glue it to the wall, and then I'll tack it in place with a few finish nails to hold it there while the glue dries. There's going to be a few obstacles that I need to cut around, and I'm going to be using my jigsaw as well as a multi-tool to get those cuts perfect. But I'm going to have to cut around a few outlets. Stovetop hood needs to go a little bit taller, and then a window will notch out of this backsplash as well. But with those two tools, I can easily cut whatever shape I need to cut around. Now, as you're going along the wall and there's no obstacles, it's pretty easy to go fast through here and just tack it up. But you want to make sure that you're periodically checking with the level, making sure that the boards are plumb and you're not getting it tilted, because it will affect it once you get to the corner. It'll be noticeable if you slowly get off plumb. I started from the end and worked my way towards the corner, and it ended up being perfect. It looks like an entire board is starting right there, but I really wanted to focus on getting the edge looking good. That's the most traffic, the most visible section, and later I'll continue the beadboard from that wall further. And so I wanted to make sure that that was lined up. I didn't care as much about the corner, but you can choose which side you want to start with a full board, but it's really down to just preference. Once I have the beadboard done, I'm going to come back with a 1x2 inch molding and put that across the top of the beadboard, but that just finishes it off and makes it look really nice. The trim and the beadboard's finished, I'm going to come back again with caulking, fill in any gaps. This looks really messy right now with brown caulking on it, but it blends in really well with the countertop, so if any shows after we paint, you won't even see it, but I'll fill in all the nail holes and cracks, so once we paint, we'll have a nice even finish across everything and the boards will look smooth. The main thing to pay attention here though is the bottom gap along the countertop and backsplash. You want to make sure you caulk that corner and it's completely sealed. If there's any cracks there, moisture, if it spills on the countertop, can run down the back, get into your wall or your cabinets, and if that reoccurs, it could cause a lot of rot and issues later down the line. So make sure you caulk that bottom crack, and then everything else is just aesthetic and it's going to make it look a lot nicer once finished. Now we're finally getting close to being done with this. We're going to move on to painting. We're actually painting the whole kitchen, the cabinets and everything, and this beadboard along with it. We also have some outlet covers that are made out of wood that will match really well with the beadboards. We're going to paint that as well before mounting it. And so we'll give everything a good 2 to 3 coats of paint and then see how that turns out. Alright guys, that just about finishes up the video for today. Here's the finished beadboard backsplash in our kitchen. It turned out beautifully. We love this, so I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. In the upcoming videos, I'm planning on building a cabinet in our kitchen to extend this coffee bar over, a nice cabinet that matches the rest of them but with drawers underneath so we can store all of our coffee under there. But that will just replace this old table we have and extend our kitchen, make it a little bit bigger. So stay tuned for that if you guys are interested, and thanks again so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.